A shout out to Johnson Dodge in Budlake, New Jersey for this vehicle. I'm going to attempt to review for you. This looks like a Plymouth, but actually is a Chrysler. This is the Chrysler Voyager. It essentially has everything you could ever need. Not necessarily things that you think you want. This is really an extremely solid, well-made vehicle. It has been averaging roughly 26 miles to the gallon, and that's an average between highway and around town. It's extremely steady on the road. The doors close with a resounding thump. It has keyless entry. All the normal power accoutrements, like for example, even the rear doors go down, which is very nice. The interior is actually extremely functional. Nice solid thump. Beautiful screen. We'll kill that. It's a reminder that these cloth seats negate the need for heated and cooled seats because they are not leather. They don't get hot and sticky, and they don't freeze your tail when you get in. This is extremely well laid out. They have everything from climate controls, apps, phone, nifty little compass, all kinds of settings and controls, media that you connect, the auxiliary and USB, and a stereo that actually sounds quite good. And it's so easy to work that I didn't need the manual. The center stack is controlled by these little buttons here. Stop start, that we have to talk about. The start stop on this vehicle is really quite refined. My wife's Toyota, for example, I thought that was the cream of the crop where you can barely notice it. This is 99% there. And I'm not sure about that because I haven't had a chance to actually compare them back to back. But it certainly does not resemble a wet dog shaking itself dry every time the engine goes to restart. It's almost imperceptible. The way this vehicle drives down the road, the view is just really phenomenal. It's very solid. And being a front-wheel drive vehicle, I am in no way a fan, but I have to admit, this is the very first front-wheel drive vehicle that I've been in where torque steer, but its powerful V6, is a non-issue. It's virtually non-existent. This is something even I could live with, and an SRT Challenger is my favorite kind of car. But this reminds you of just how much room you have. There's the rear climate controls, all the vents for everybody. There's no stow and go in the center, but there is standard stow and go all the way in the back, which is really what you're going to use most of the time. If you're going to load this thing up with 4x8 sheets of plywood, then you're going to have to pull out that center. See, but I wish I could convey to you just how rock solid this thing is. And what's nice is that these microphones make for a very good conversation when you're talking on Bluetooth. Everything works so seamlessly. This version of a standard Uconnect is just amazing. Kind of hard to believe. This, however, takes a little getting used to, especially when you go to turn up the radio. You don't want to be driving down the road and suddenly end up in low, which actually they have a little detent. Look at that. So that solves that issue. Isn't that amazing? Everything is so well thought out. And by the way, folks, when you have this kind of parking brake, please use it. It's one of those, if you don't use it, you're going to lose it, because things will tend to rust up, at least in the Northeast where we are in the Salt Belt. Let's go around and take a look at the very end of the vehicle, and then we'll work our way right to the front. There's that resounding thunk. No power doors, but it reminds you that these glide so easily and so quickly at your touch. Who wants to stand around and wait for anything power? And that brings us to the tailgate. My wife's Toyota, you have to hit the button, and like Savage Geese once said, you can run around the car twice before the thing opens up all the way. You're in a hurry, just hit this button, and it's up and out of your way. And look at that. Somebody left me a bottle of water. So these seats fall deep into the floor and go flat. These you can just make disappear for better rear visibility. Very convenient. These are very ingenious. Very nice. I could show you the action on these, but I'm not that good with the camera. Got a nice 12-volt DC. Lots of cup holders. Soft touch. Overall, look how much room. You just can't beat the footprint of a minivan. And I know people these days are vanophobes, but when it comes down to utilitarian purposes, these things are still king. When Lee Coca pushed the original minivan, I'm sure glad they came out with this one. This is such a quantum leap over the Dodge Caravan. It was just getting too long in the tooth, even though it was reasonable, especially for the price. These things are amazing. This wiper does a full sweep, and it blends in really nice. Just look at that profile in the van. It's really quite a beautiful machine. This one has the best kind of wheels you can find in any salt environment. These steel wheels with the plastic hubcaps will have the least amount of corrosion, the least amount of maintenance issues, be the most pothole friendly wheels you can think of. And that now brings us around to the front, which aside from the hood being popped is actually quite attractive. There's a hood prop here. Let's see if I can work this out. The hood is not very hard at all to put up. Now this, folks, is a beautiful engine. This Pentastar 3.6 liter has been very nicely refined. It's smooth, it's powerful, even in auto start stop, which you can disable. You really don't have to, and it does add to your fuel mileage. It must, at 26 miles to the gallon average, and that's a lot of around town. And if you want to do servicing, there's your oil filter right there, and one drain plug underneath, and this is one of the easier vehicles to maintain. So much is accessible. Just an overall really nice package. And if you ever get confused as to which is your positive or negative terminal, I guess. That's something our here's going to let you know. But a little bit of a RAM error type of setup into the air cleaner. Apologies for how dirty this vehicle is, because this is essentially a loaner. My 13-year-old Dodge Magnum is in for repairs, and when it took a little longer to get parts than they thought, I got this beautiful loaner. Not exactly my cup of tea, but I have to say, this is the most utilitarian, long-haul, comfortable vehicle you can think of. And at the price that they're selling these at, you can't beat it. And Siena really doesn't have anything on this thing at all. As far as reliability and consumer reports, so far, they like it quite a bit. There's been very little problems with just about anything on this. So here's a wholehearted recommendation. Essentially a vehicle with everything you need. And absolutely nothing that's ridiculous, like a panoramic sunroof, etc. Anyway, folks, I hope you enjoyed this very short look at the Chrysler Voyager. I do believe this is something that most people might find interesting. If you're out there looking for a Sienna or a Honda Odyssey, and